Everybody you know, everybody around you, everybody you're going to meet is fighting some sort of a battle. It's not something that we talk about because it's honestly nobody else's business, but we're all fighting some sort of a battle at pretty much every moment in our lives. You know, this belief that we can eternally be happy or constantly be happy and that everything's always going to be okay. This thought that we're never going to have mental struggles, or we're never going to experience mental struggles. It's false. It's impossible. But for some reason, we still chase it almost nonstop. We're constantly trying to pursue this happiness that's false. Welcome back to another episode of Sweat Talk. My name is Chad. So when you hear that word powerful, or you hear strong or strength, what comes to mind? Is it the big muscles? Is it the six pack? Is it the Spartan or maybe a superhero? Or is it simply just the person that's able to keep it together in a bad situation? Is it just simply a person that can be strong for everybody around them? Somebody who doesn't panic in a moment of terror? Or is it the person that just says, you know what, this is what it is, and I need to put one foot in front of the other, and I need to just continue walking. I need to continue moving in the right direction. When I think of strength, when I think of powerful, I think about mental toughness. I think about mental strength. I think about flexing those mental muscles. And I also think about how amazing our mind is. You know, I think about the fact that this piece of meat inside of our heads that's made almost entirely of cholesterol is capable of continuing to function. Our bodies keep our heart pumping. It's capable of overcoming fears. It's capable of causing fear. And the more that we exercise the ability to overcome those fears, the easier it is to overcome fears in general. But I realize that the ability to overcome those fears, the easier it is for us to continue to grow and get better at overcoming those fears, to get stronger in our mind, to be able to flex our mental muscles. You know, I mean, because the most powerful strength that any one of us can have is mental strength. It's not the six pack. It's not the gigantic arms or the huge legs or whatever. Because when you have a strong mind, you can overcome anything that you want. You know, the people that have big muscles, the people that do work out, the people that do exercise discipline, those people are flexing their mental muscles every time they go to the gym, every time they work out, every time they go for a hike or go for a run. They're flexing those mental muscles and their mental capability every time they make the choice to eat something that is healthy for them. You know, these people, they're growing their anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And if you don't know what that is, it's a brain structure that's actually just recently discovered. And that brain structure, it grows every time you do something difficult. And just like the muscles on your body, the muscles that you physically see, your arms, your legs, you know, your quads, your calves, whatever, if you do not exercise that anterior mid-cingulate cortex, then it's going to shrink. It's going to atrophy. Hello. If you haven't heard heard that word or that body part, that brain structure, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, look it up. It's absolutely remarkable. Because what ends up happening is the more you flex that mental muscle, the harder you're working that anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Just like the muscles that you see on your body physically. You want to get bigger arms, so you want to get bigger biceps, so you go and do some curls. You want to get some bigger legs and strengthen your core, so you do some squats. Your muscles grow. And your anterior mid-cingulate cortex does the exact same thing. And if you decide to sit on your ass and not exercise those muscles at all, then those muscles are going to atrophy. They're going to shrink. And the exact same thing happens to your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. You can actually grow your brain by doing difficult things. You can actually grow your mind and your mental muscles or your mental strength simply by flexing it. Simply by facing those things that are difficult. You know, the first time we do something that's hard, say getting into a cold shower, or maybe going and riding roller coasters, going down these massive water slides, you know, something that just scares the shit out of you, or something that absolutely sucks. The first time you do it, you're absolutely terrified. You don't want to do it. It's the last thing on your mind, that you want to do. But for some reason, you do it. And then when you do it and you survive and you go through that experience, then you realize there was actually nothing to be afraid of. And what you have effectively done is you have grown that anterior mid-cingulate cortex. You have grown that brain structure because you simply flexed that muscle. So it's easy for us to think that it's no big deal. We don't realize how powerful doing something like that is for our mental muscles. We don't even realize that we're flexing those mental muscles. We just realize that we did something that gave us a shot in the arm of adrenaline. We did something that was scary. We did something that actually took a little bit of strength. And by doing that, the next time we go down that slide, because we flex that mental muscle, because we're growing that brain structure, then it makes it easier to deal with the next time. Hello.
Hi.
And the more we do it, the easier it becomes. But a perfect example of this would be, when I worked in the trades as a plumber, there was times where I would have to climb up into rafters 20, 30, 40 feet in the air. And there, back then, we didn't tie off. We didn't give a shit. You just had to do it. You had to make sure that you had 3 points of contact and you climbed it, and you went up and you did your job. You did what you were supposed to. And the first several times I did it, I was absolutely terrified. The first several times I did it, I was terrified. Even when I was sitting on a platform that was built, it just being that high, it terrified me. But the more that I did it, the more used to it I became. Eventually, being up that high, it was just another day at the office. And I didn't realize the strength that I was actually developing by doing that. But over the last 20 years of not doing that anymore, well, I've developed this crazy fear of heights, and I've developed this crazy fear of falling. Like I get anxiety when I'm standing on the edge of a cliff or something anymore. I have completely lost the ability to not have that fear of heights, which is a symptom of that brain structure shrinking. Now, if I would have continued to work in high places, if I would have continued to say go cliff jumping, that was one of the things that I did in my younger years. I used to love going cliff jumping. I'd climb a 40, 60 foot cliff and jump and not give a shit. Now, I'm absolutely terrified. Standing on the edge of a 40 foot cliff, man, that's terrifying to me now. Even if it is water, even if I don't really even have anything to fear except the irrational fear that I face. And I say irrational because I don't have any legitimate reason to have that fear. Nothing ever happened to me that was negative from standing on the edge of heights or from experiencing heights. Nothing. But about the only real and legitimate fear that I have that I have trouble facing regularly is my fear of falling and my fear of heights, which ironically they happen to go hand in hand. But even still, 2 months ago, I think it was about 2 months ago when I was in Florida, I made a couple videos while I was there. I went cliff jumping and I jumped off of a 20-foot ledge. I was terrified to do it. Absolutely mortified thinking about jumping off that cliff. But I did it. I did it because I know that thought or that feeling, that fear is irrational. I know that there was nothing below me in the water that was going to hurt me. And I knew if my approach is right, then I'm not going to be hurt. I know how to properly jump in the water from heights. I know what a proper water entry is. I know how to do that. I've done it a million times. But for some reason, I still have that fear. Now there is the possibility that if I did screw it up, that I would back flop or belly flop or something like that. So I wasn't completely immune from potential injury, but I'm not going to die. But we develop these fears. These fears they come to mind for God knows what reason. The majority of the time it's for self-preservation, but a lot of us don't exercise going past that fear. We don't exercise those mental muscles. We don't realize how powerful being able to flex our mental muscles are or is, because you're not ever going to be able to get into shape without those mental muscles being flexed. You're not ever going to be able to fix your nutrition, fix your diet without using those mental muscles. It's a requirement. Because if you think about it, the focus, the the drive and the desire for whatever your outcome is, it's going to require you to do something outside of your comfort zone. It's going to require you to do something that you don't want to do. And if you're used to doing things that suck, or if you're used to facing your fears, then facing those fears is going to become much easier. And that goes for all fears. You know, this could be fear, the fear that you have of going to your boss and asking for a raise. It could be the fear that you have of heights. It could be the fear that you have of failure. You know, because these fears, they're not rational fears. They're irrational fears. They're irrational thoughts. I mean, even if you were afraid of something because of a past trauma that you experienced, the likelihood of ever experiencing that traumatic event again is almost none. Almost none. But yet we let that fear control us. We let that fear dictate what we are and what we aren't going to do because we're afraid, because we're scared. And this, you know, I mean, this goes for basically every aspect of our life. And we're so blind to see that it is irrational. These fears are irrational. But we cave to these fears. We're constantly caving to these fears. And instead of getting off our asses and going out there and doing whatever it is that we know we need to do, we cave. We cave to these fears, and we let that emotion control our lives. We let that emotion dictate what we are and what we aren't going to do. Even if it was a dream of ours to do something. I mean, how many times have you put a dream aside that because you're afraid of something, because you're afraid of something irrational, something that hasn't happened yet? All of those what ifs or those shoulds that go through your mind. I should do this, I should do that. Is that should fear? Is that should based in reality? Is that should based in procrastination? Is that should, does that come from procrastinating or analysis paralysis? Because when you say you should, does that mean that you're afraid of starting? Does that mean that you're afraid of doing something? You know, I say it a lot that word try. It's a difficult one to get out of our vernacular, but we need to not say it, because the problem with it is that it gives our subconscious mind a way out. It gives us an out. And if we replace that word should or that word try with do, then that means we're committed. And we're constantly telling ourselves over and over and over that we are capable, that we are going to do it. And we're not giving ourselves a way out. We're not giving ourselves an exit. We're not afraid of the potential failure. We don't know the outcome if we don't start. We don't know what's going to happen if we don't do it. We can play these scenarios through our head over and over, and we can sit there and what if ourselves to death. But the fact remains that they're irrational fears. We can say that we're perfectionists, so we don't start. Because I suffer from that excuse myself. You know, everything's got to be perfect. Everything, there's a time for perfection. There's a perfect time for whatever. My video that I made today isn't perfect, so I need to delete it. You know, my thumbnails aren't perfect. My you know, you name it. I have all of these things running through my head as well. I'm not exempt from this. But that's exactly why I talk about these things, is because I have fears as well. But I also know the strength that I'm building. I know my capabilities because I've faced my fears, and I understand that the most important muscle to flex is not my arms, it's not my calves, it's my mind. And the more that I flex my mind, the more powerful I become, the stronger I become. You know, I don't really even care about the muscles. I don't care about having a six-pack. That's not my goal. And that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to portray that I give a shit about that, because I don't. Hello. But that's because I know that the most useful and powerful strength that I can have is mental strength. I know that I can overcome anything with mental toughness. Hello. And I also know that muscular strength, you know, being able to pick up something heavy or having a six-pack or having big muscles, big legs, whatever, looking muscular, I won't have any of those, or I wouldn't have any of those without that mental strength, without that mental toughness, without the mental fortitude that it takes to build that. I understand what causes it. I understand that a piss poor diet can absolutely ruin my mental clarity. It can ruin my mental stability. It can ruin my physique, and it's not the physique that concerns me. It's the mental stability. When I ruin my mental stability, everything falls apart. Everything. The physique is just a byproduct of flexing my mental muscles. And I realize that. I realize that the more hard things I do, the stronger I am going to get in every aspect. I realize that the more fear I face, the easier it's going to become to face those fears. And the better at facing that fear that I'm going to get, the better I'm going to become at everyday life, the better I'm going to become at struggles, overcoming struggles, doing the difficult things that I try to avoid. You know, if somebody sits here and tells you that they don't have struggles, or if somebody tells you that they're not fighting some sort of a battle, they're lying. They're absolutely lying. Everybody, without exception, has some sort of a mental struggle that they're fighting. Everybody they have some sort of mental issues that they're dealing with. And it's easy for us to lose sight of that. It's easy for us to forget that, because we're so stuck in our own heads, worrying about our own fears, worrying about how we are perceived. We're too worried about those what ifs. And we're worried about other people's judgments. We're worried about what people are going to think, what people are going to say. And then we ask the wrong people for advice. We ask the wrong people for examples, you know. And when we ask for that advice, then we take it to heart. When somebody tells us that we're going to fail at something, we listen to that shit. And we do that because of our fears. We do that because we aren't flexing our mental muscles enough. We aren't exercising that anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Just understand, the more that we work, the more fears that we face, the stronger we become. And that goes for every single aspect of our lives. So if you made it this far, do me a favor and go down in the comments and write that word strength. Just that one word, strength. Without strength, we don't have anything. Without our mental strength, we're lost. If we live in the future, we have anxiety. If we live in the past, we have depression. If we live in the current, then we are strong, we are powerful, and we are happy. Standing around thinking about what we should have done, where does that get us? It gets us nowhere. All it does is hinder us from getting ahead in the future. All it does is prevent us from growing that strength and from flexing those mental muscles. When we think about the future, when we sit there and dwell on the future or what could possibly happen, what does that do for us? It prevents us from ever getting started. It prevents us from ever doing what we need to do, what we know we need to do, what is right, because it causes anxiety. It causes panic. It causes an overwhelming emotion that we use an excuse to deal with. And we use those emotions as excuses of why we didn't do something. And then it turns into why we should have done something. But it all takes strength. It all takes strength. Doing that hard thing, do that. You know, like taking cold showers, for example, or going for ice baths, going up to a glacier lake, getting into water that's 40, 50 degrees. That's pretty brutal to do. I thoroughly enjoy doing it. It makes me feel great, but it's terrifying. It's something that one of the benefits that people don't talk about is the fact that the mental strength that is going to come from it, the overall mental strength that's going to come from it. The ability to overcome your fears, because you're legitimately growing that anterior mid-cingulate cortex. You're legitimately getting stronger when you do that, because you are facing your fears. You're embracing that suck. You're developing the ability to overcome any obstacle that you may face. I don't believe that anything is impossible. I don't, because I know I've been witness to it. I've experienced that nothing is impossible. That word impossible, it's pointless, and it's not true. It's not a factual word. Nothing is impossible. Nothing. And I used to believe that things were impossible. I used to believe that getting ahead was impossible. I used to believe that being a millionaire was impossible. I used to believe that having a job with a good wage was impossible. And I'm here to tell you that nothing is impossible. The only way that something becomes impossible is if you don't develop that strength and you believe that it's impossible. So with that, that's all I got for today, guys. I want to thank you guys for all those super thanks. Your generosity truly blows me away every time I get one, every time I see it. I want to thank you guys for all the support that you're showing me and in this channel and my family, and all of your positive feedback. I greatly appreciate it. So with that, I want to thank you guys for showing up. I hope you guys are showing up for yourselves, and I hope that each and every one of you has a wonderful day. Peace.